right, this is the 90-degree slotted ruler with a 1.5 inch spacing. Let's play with this for a minute. I'll tell you a couple tips though. I do like putting that skateboard grid tape on there. I cut up little pieces and put it on. It just makes it a little bit grippy on the fabric and I can hold it even better. Additionally, I found a silly tip with all my rulers. If I'm working near the edge, it drives me crazy when that grid tape hits my batting. So I just got in the habit of covering up the batting because I just hate grabbing it. Anyway, just a tip. All right, so let's say we wanted to put piano keys in this little practice piece here. I made a little sampler. Okay, call this the top of your quilt. And I'm actually calling this a 5-inch border. So I simulated a 5-inch border here going across the top. And I'm going to choose later to play with some kind of motif there, so I'm not going to worry about my corners right now. So if I wanted to piano key this area, it is designed such that you would put the outer legs of the template on your outside edge. Or you could put it over a little bit, that's fine. But this is what you line up with to make sure you're always holding the template straight, okay? And as you'll notice, as I go up and down here, these legs are cut shorter, so I can turn the corner and get around these legs without ever moving my template. Now this is designed for double line quilting. We're going to stitch each line twice. We're going to go in and we're going to come back. This would be a good time to pull out your 50 weight or 60 weight threads. You probably don't want to use your thickest threads. You know, it depends what your quilt's about and what you're doing, but it's a good time to play with the finer threads. I have a 30 weight right here. I mean Tex 30. I'm using Omni right now, a wrap poly. Okay, line it up for the first one. These rulers are also sized. If you want an extra blade, you can also use the outside edge, okay? So just to start this run, what I would do is put my needle down and use that to get the right spacing relative to this line. If I butted this up here, right to the line, my very first iteration would not be 1.5 inch. It would be shy because it accounted for this 1/4 inch, because in each one of these I have to account for that 1/4 inch. So I'm going to line up my ruler. Okay, this is off the quilt, right? So technically I could just sew over here for my first one. It doesn't matter on the first one because I'm not on the quilt. Okay, I'm lined up on my edges and I go. Now like our other templates, keep your hands relatively close to your hopping foot. Don't hold your hands too far away. No different than when you use a rotary cutter in your rotary rulers. Tap your seam line on the edge of your border and go back out. Now, if you happen to shift the ruler a little bit, it's okay. Take liberty to move it back. As you go back, treat this line like you're stitching in the ditch and you're tweaking that ruler as necessary to stay in the ditch. Okay, I can go back across the bottom. I know I'm on the edge of my quilt, but I'll hit it perfect just to show you can. Center it in the slot and come back through again. So as you can see, it's almost impossible to get crooked lines or to drift the ruler. It's sitting here, I'm putting very little pressure on to hold it tight, and off I go. I have a 5-inch border here. This template is set up to handle up to 6 inches. If you chose, even though I'm now doing 5. All right, if I want to do one more slot using the outside edge right here, it's not a problem if I'm on the edge of my quilt. I could just go out and do it. Otherwise, let's say I wasn't on the edge of the quilt though for some reason, yeah, you're gonna have to move it for a second so you could get by. So go down your ditch and then just move her back, lining up those edges. And in this case, watch your lines, make sure your lines are centered, and you're going to be fine. Remember, this isn't rocket science. It's pretty straightforward, and nobody's going to see a hairline deviation. And there we go. We could put it down and go again. Or if you wanted, you could use that for your placement and then just keep going, probably which is what I would do, and then go again. because that way I don't have to jump around here. I can just start coming in. Now, as I get down to the end, I may or may not end perfect. And that's where you got to be a little, think ahead a little bit. If you start to come in, let's say I do my last line here. I'll hold my finger there for a minute. And I put these on here. Oh, this one's going to come in right perfect. Because look, there's my 1/4 inch I started with. So this one will actually hit this space exactly perfect. But let's say it didn't. Let's say my last line was going to be there. Now I need to make a design decision. Do I want to end closer with something to 1.5 inch spacing like all my other spacing? If so, somewhere around in here, I might want to start nudging my ruler just a hair. Or I can either open up my spaces or start to shrink my spaces a little bit, just a little hair, walking as you go. No one's going to notice it, and you could eat up the extra space or land just near perfect. All right, here is the 2-inch 90-degree slotted ruler. Let's take a quick look at this one. Again, I'm going to do it vertically. You could see same thing. I'm going to line up my edges on here. I need to make sure I have pulled this ruler down about 1/4 inch from my seam or my start point. So my first iteration, my first piano key, I'll call it, is exactly the same as the other sizes. So you need that 1/4 inch spacing right here. Okay? All right, so I line her up and off I go. I'm going to show you, this one is a 2, so we'll do a couple 2-inch lines, but then I'm going to show you how to quickly turn those 2-inch lines into 1-inch lines. Okay, again, since this is, this is off the quilt over here. This will all be cut off, so I can just do my secure over there. I'm not too worried about it. I got my 2 long legs lined up on my seam, and I'm about 1/4 inch away from here, from the start. Okay, off we go. Again, so come down, shoot for the target, and in you go. Okay, you can see I bumped a little bit, but it really does not matter. It blends right in. I keep my hands in the area of the popping foot, same way. Okay, so it's this one being on this side, I do have to shift my hands back and forth. Come down, again, that's the edge of the quilt, but let's say if it was a ditch, I can hit it. Come back in, and go again. I could probably keep my hand on this side, but it is a little more comfortable for me to put it on the other side. Left-handed, what can I say? Don't sew your finger. All right, I'll just do one more slot, and then I'm going to show you if we want to turn this into a 1-inch. Oops. Notice how I had a little bump there? Because I didn't have my hand close enough to where the foot was. All right. Let's say I finish the whole thing and I want to do one. All I would do is just move it up, put these etch lines on top of my previous stitching. Line up my legs like I did before, and off I go. I could come back and get 1-inch spacing, if that's what the quilt calls for. And then go up. Right now I'm not putting very much pressure at all on this template. The weight of it is really holding itself down on the fabric very nicely. And I have my larger extended base plate on right now. A small one works too. Just make sure you keep your hands in the vicinity of the foot. A small base plate works just fine. You do need a base plate. Okay, and as you can see now we have 1-inch spacing. So I could have opted to leave it as a 2 or take it down to 1 or use 1.5.